Your brain is trying to kill you. Not literally, but it might as well be, because right now, inside your skull, there is a system so ancient, so powerful, and so completely out of date that it cannot tell the difference between a spider on your bathroom wall and a predator about to end your life. And that system is running you every single day in ways you don't even see coming. There are 10 fears we're going to talk about today. 10 ways your brain has decided that something completely harmless is going to destroy you. And by the end of this, you're not going to feel broken. You're going to feel like the most logical, most evolutionary, most justified person alive. Because none of this is your fault. Your brain is just stuck in a time that no longer exists. Number 1, arachnophobia. 1 in 3 women, 1 in 4 men. That's how many people on this planet experience an irrational, overwhelming terror of spiders. Not discomfort, not a shudder. Pure, unfiltered panic at the sight of something that fits in the palm of your hand. Here's what actually happens in your brain when you see a spider. Your amygdala, the alarm center of your nervous system, fires before your conscious mind has even registered what you're looking at. Your heart rate spikes, your palms sweat, your body prepares for combat with a creature that, in most cases, has absolutely no interest in you whatsoever. The reason this is so hardwired goes back hundreds of thousands of years. For most of human history, certain spiders were genuinely lethal. The ancestors who felt fear and ran survived. The ones who didn't feel that fear often didn't. That fear was selected for generation after generation until it became less of a learned behavior and more of a factory setting. Here's the part that makes arachnophobia genuinely fascinating. A significant number of people who have severe arachnophobia have never had a traumatic encounter with a spider. No bite, no childhood scare. The fear arrived fully formed, inherited through genetic memory from ancestors who did have that experience. Your brain is running a survival program written by someone who lived in a cave, and it never got the update that says the spider in your bathroom is just trying to eat mosquitoes. Number 2, claustrophobia. An elevator, a tunnel, a crowded room, a window seat on a plane with 2 people blocking the aisle. For someone with claustrophobia, any of these can trigger the same neurological response as being buried alive. What claustrophobia is actually afraid of is not the small space, it's the absence of escape. The moment your nervous system registers that getting out might be difficult, it treats that situation as a trap. Breathing accelerates, the chest tightens, rational thought evaporates. What replaces it is something ancient and animal: get out, get out, get out at any cost. There's a specific biological mechanism that makes claustrophobia particularly intense. People who experience it are unusually sensitive to rising levels of carbon dioxide in the air. In a closed space, as the air becomes slightly more concentrated, their brain interprets that signal as the beginning of suffocation. Before any real danger exists, the alarm is already screaming. Claustrophobia can develop from a single traumatic experience of confinement, but it can also emerge from nothing. No event, no story. Just a nervous system that was always more sensitive to the signals of restriction than most. The space isn't the enemy, the feeling of no exit is. And once your brain decides somewhere has no exit, it will fight with everything it has to never go back. Number 3, acrophobia. You're standing on a perfectly safe balcony. The railing is solid, the building is structurally sound, there is objectively no danger, and your knees are shaking. Your stomach has dropped somewhere around the 2nd floor. Your hands are gripping the railing so hard your knuckles have gone white. This is acrophobia, and what makes it so disorienting is the complete disconnect between what your eyes are telling your brain and what your brain is telling your body. The moment you're at height, your brain generates a catastrophic mental image of falling. And that image, just the image, not the fall itself, triggers the same physiological response as if you were actually falling right now. The shaking, the paralysis, the desperate need to find something solid. There's a phenomenon called the call of the void. Most people at heights experience a brief, strange impulse to jump, not because they want to, but because the brain registers that impulse as a danger signal and generates a powerful counter-response: get back from the edge. In people with acrophobia, that entire system is permanently set to maximum. Acrophobia often begins with a fall or a witnessed fall in childhood. But it can also emerge in adults with no prior history, particularly in people whose cerebellum, the balance center, sends slightly inconsistent signals to their spatial orientation system. Your brain cannot distinguish between being in danger and feeling like you might be, and from a height, it refuses to take that risk. Number 4, aerophobia. Statistically, you are safer inside a commercial aircraft than you are inside your car. The numbers are not even close. And yet, approximately 1 in 4 adults experiences some degree of irrational fear of flying, ranging from mild discomfort to complete inability to board. The paradox is brutal. The safest place you can be makes you feel like you are seconds away from death. What makes aerophobia particularly complex is that it is rarely just one fear. It is multiple phobias compressed into a single experience. Claustrophobia, the cabin; acrophobia, the altitude. Fear of losing control, you are not the one flying. Fear of no escape, the door is sealed at 35,000 feet. Fear of death, all of the above, simultaneously. When turbulence hits, the brain of someone with aerophobia does not register normal movement. It registers confirmation of catastrophe. Every shake is proof that something is terribly, irreversibly wrong. The rational mind knows the statistics. The amygdala does not care about statistics. The amygdala only speaks the language of threat detection. Aerophobia frequently develops after a severe turbulence experience or an in-flight panic attack. But it can also be learned indirectly through news coverage of crashes, through disaster films, through a single conversation that planted the seed. Once the brain connects airplane with danger, that connection is almost impossible to undo without direct, deliberate intervention. The most statistically safe vehicle on Earth, and your brain is absolutely convinced it's a flying coffin. Number 5, agoraphobia. Most people think agoraphobia is the fear of open spaces. It isn't. That's the surface reading. The real definition is far more complex and far more debilitating. Agoraphobia is the fear of being in situations where escape would be difficult, or where help would not be available if panic strikes. That includes open spaces. But it also includes crowded places, public transport, supermarket lines, restaurants, movie theaters, and ultimately for many people with severe agoraphobia, anywhere that isn't home. The mechanism is a trap that builds on itself. After 1 or more panic attacks in public spaces, the brain constructs a direct association between those spaces and terror. Avoidance feels like relief. But every time you avoid a place to prevent panic, you are teaching your brain that the place was genuinely dangerous. The fear doesn't shrink, it grows. The map of safe places gets smaller. First the shopping mall, then the restaurant, then anything with crowds, until the only place the brain considers truly safe is the 4 walls of your home. Agoraphobia is not weakness. It is a learning system that learned the wrong lesson. And the cruelest part is that the more successfully you protect yourself from the fear, the stronger the fear becomes. Number 6, Ophidiophobia. The fear of snakes is present in virtually every human culture on the planet, regardless of geography, regardless of whether venomous snakes are common or rare in that region. A child raised in Iceland, where there are almost no snakes, will still show heightened alertness to an image of a snake compared to an image of any other animal. This fear is not learned, it is inherited. Research has demonstrated that infants just a few months old before any negative experience with snakes is possible already show increased nervous system activation when shown images of snakes compared to other objects. The human brain has a dedicated, specialized circuit for snake detection that operates faster than conscious vision. You can see a snake and your body can react before your mind has finished processing what your eyes just saw. This is the product of millions of years of coevolution between primates and venomous snakes. A biological arms race in which the primates who detected snakes fastest survived, and the ones who detected them too slowly often didn't. In its pathological form, Ophidiophobia doesn't require an actual snake. A photograph, a drawing, a long, thin object on the ground seen from the corner of your eye. The alarm fires before confirmation, because evolutionarily it was always better to have 1,000 false alarms than one real miss. Your brain's snake detection system never received the update informing it that the nearest snake is in a glass tank at the zoo. Number 7, Coulrophobia. The fear of clowns. It sounds like the setup to a joke. It isn't. Coulrophobia affects a surprisingly large percentage of the population, including adults who have never seen a horror film featuring a clown, and the reason goes deeper than pop culture. The human brain is extraordinarily specialized at reading faces. It is one of our most powerful social tools. We detect micro-expressions. We notice tiny shifts in eye movement. We read the difference between a genuine smile and a performed one. This ability is so refined it operates almost automatically. A clown breaks this system completely. The painted smile is fixed. It doesn't move. The eyes are framed by makeup that makes true emotional reading impossible. The features are exaggerated to a point where they are almost human, but not quite. This is what researchers call the uncanny valley, the zone where something looks close enough to human to engage our social reading system, but distorted enough to trigger alarm instead of recognition. When the brain cannot read someone's true emotional state, it activates threat detection. Because unpredictable behavior has always been one of the most dangerous signals a social creature can encounter. Clowns move erratically, they invade personal space without warning signals. They behave in ways that don't follow normal social rules. For a child whose social reading system is still developing, that combination is genuinely terrifying. And then add decades of horror films cementing the association between face paint and violence. The clown no longer needs to do anything threatening. Just appearing is enough for the brain to complete the story on its own. Number 8, Trypanophobia. 25% of adults. That's how many people experience some degree of fear of needles and injections. And in its most severe form, trypanophobia leads people to avoid medical treatment, skip vaccinations, cancel surgeries, and put their health at genuine risk to avoid the sensation of a needle-breaking skin. What makes trypanophobia uniquely strange among phobias is its physiological response. Most phobias generate a fight-or-flight reaction. Heart rate up, blood pressure up, body ready to move. Trypanophobia, in many people, does the exact opposite. The vagus nerve is overstimulated. Blood pressure drops sharply. The person loses consciousness, not as performance, not as exaggeration, as an automatic, involuntary biological response to the sight of a needle or blood. Evolutionarily, this makes perfect sense. If you are wounded and bleeding, dropping blood pressure reduces blood loss. The problem is that this ancient protective mechanism activates in a clinical lab in front of a sterile extraction needle that represents zero actual threat. Trypanophobia frequently traces back to a painful or frightening medical experience in childhood, a moment where the child had no control, where pain arrived unexpectedly, where the body was violated by something sharp without consent or preparation. The brain registers that moment as a serious threat, builds an avoidance system around it, and that system persists for decades. The most devastating irony is this: the fear of the needle often causes more damage to a person's health than anything that needle would have treated. Number 9, Thanatophobia. Every human being is aware of their own mortality. That awareness can generate a baseline existential anxiety that is completely normal. Thanatophobia is something different. It is a fear of death so intense and so pervasive that it actively interferes with living. Panic attacks triggered by thoughts of death, avoidance of hospitals, funerals, news, conversations where the word death is mentioned. A constant, low-level terror running beneath the surface of daily life that makes ordinary moments feel fragile and threatening. Here is the paradox that makes Thanatophobia particularly cruel. The fear of dying often produces a fear of living, because living means taking risks. And taking risks means accepting the possibility of death. So the brain builds a cage of safety around the person. Smaller choices, fewer risks, less life. In an attempt to avoid death, it ends up avoiding everything that makes life worth living. Some philosophers have argued that all of human civilization, art, religion, architecture, legacy, the obsessive need to leave something behind, is at its core a collective response to Thanatophobia. Everything we build is an attempt to continue existing after we stop existing. Thanatophobia, in its purest form, is not afraid of what comes after death. It is afraid of the moment of ceasing to be, and that is possibly the most profoundly human fear there is. Number 10, Anthropophobia. This is different from social anxiety. Social anxiety fears judgment. It fears embarrassment in specific situations. Anthropophobia fears people themselves, not what they think, not what they might say. Their presence, their proximity, their existence in the same space. A person with anthropophobia can experience genuine terror in the presence of close friends and family members, not because of what those people might do, but because the nervous system has classified human proximity as an inherent threat. Eye contact, the sound of a voice, someone entering the same room. Any of these can be enough to trigger a severe anxiety response. In its most extreme forms, anthropophobia leads to complete social isolation, not chosen solitude, imposed imprisonment. A life of total aloneness that was not selected but constructed by fear, piece by piece, avoidance by avoidance, until the walls close completely. Anthropophobia frequently develops from trauma involving people, abuse, betrayal, violence, repeated humiliation during formative years. The brain learns that people are sources of pain, and then, with devastating efficiency, it generalizes that conclusion to every human being on Earth. It can also emerge after prolonged social isolation where human contact begins to feel foreign, threatening, and unbearably intense rather than natural and comforting. Anthropophobia is perhaps the loneliest fear that exists, because the only place you could ever find help is the exact place the fear will never let you go. So here is what I want you to understand. Every single one of these fears, the spider, the needle, the height, the clown, the crowd, the airplane, the human being standing 2 feet away, every single one of them makes complete, logical, evolutionary sense. Your brain is not broken. Your brain is running very old software on a very new world. It was built for an environment that no longer exists, protecting you from threats that are mostly gone, using systems that haven't been updated in hundreds of thousands of years. You are not weak for being afraid. You are ancient. You are carrying the survival code of every ancestor who lived long enough to pass their fear forward to you. The fear kept them alive. It brought you here. And now, for the first time, you can look at it directly and say, I see you. I know what you are. And I know why you're here. That knowledge doesn't make the fear disappear, but it changes the relationship you have with it, and that is where everything begins to change. If this changed the way you see your own fears, there's more waiting for you. Hit subscribe so you don't miss what's coming next. And the videos on screen right now, they were picked specifically for you. Tap 1, your brain will thank you.